silage is important because it's really hard to make enough hay because of climate, because of a variety of reasons. But silage makes sense on dairy farms, and trying to understand which system is going to be most beneficial and what sort of management to include, that's incredibly important. My name is Dr. Nancy McLean, and I am an associate professor at Dalhousie University Faculty of Agriculture. The idea came from questions that I had about how can I best prepare new farmers. One class that I teach is forages and cover crops. And in that course, I wanted to make sure that my students were prepared. Some of them go out and become farmers, and I wanted to just know how to best prepare them. I've always been passionate about forage crops for many reasons, and in order to make the best use of forage crops, I wanted to give advice about how they should manage, process, store, feed those crops. For this project, there's partners across Canada, and what we did was contacted dairy producers and asked them to provide some information on their management practices. And also we collected first cut silage samples from them and tested them for a wide variety of quality parameters. And we wanted to see if there were any associations between different management practices and the quality of their silage. So all of the silages, I should say, were alfalfa grass-based. We concentrated on 3 types of silage systems: bunker silos, conventional tower silos, and round wrap bale silages. And in terms of quality, all 3 systems produced pretty much the same range of quality. So from minimum to maximum and averages were all very close. Surprisingly, the wrapped round bale silages on average had significantly better quality parameters than the bunker silos and the tower silos, although all of them were able to produce very good quality silage. We found that, of course, cutting date was significant. So cutting earlier produced higher quality, higher digestibility silages. Also, more legume was beneficial, but surprisingly, I guess, was mower conditioners. So conditioners on mowers, which are supposed to speed up the drying, they reduce the quality. Lack of a conditioner was beneficial. And that's interesting because if you don't use a conditioner, you can use lower horsepower, so potentially less fuel, and you can travel more quickly, which should be less expensive and produce higher quality. Another thing that was significant in the results was use of an inoculant, a bacterial inoculant, to boost the fermentation. Farmers often use inoculants, not a terribly expensive management factor to use, so it was nice to see that it was beneficial. So I think that's important information to know, because that can be a way that off the bat they can cut some costs in equipment and fuel, and maybe travel around the field a little faster too. You can make any of the common silage systems work for you, but you have to understand what to include and what not to include. They need to use a system that they're comfortable with, that works for them. If it's a smaller farm, small to medium-sized farm, then I think a wrapped round bale system would work for them. It requires less personnel as well, so fewer people, less equipment. If it's a large operation, then a bunker system is probably what's going to work for them. It's important to study silage because it has a tremendous impact on economics, on the environment, on cow health, and also on the quality of the milk that's produced. So it produces a better product, the cows are healthier, it's also less expensive, it's feed that farmers grow on their own farms, they don't have to buy it in. Why also it's important is that It's really hard to be a dairy farmer. It's really hard to be any kind of a farmer, but if you're trying to produce milk, there's all kinds of biology that you're dealing with. So much knowledge is required, and there's so many costs that are involved. So if we can reduce the reliance on other feed, produce really good forage, then we can reduce the cost of production while everything else benefits as well. I think it's important that they have the information to make informed decisions. That's important about anything in life, really. And also information gathered from local conditions. So there is information potentially from other parts of the world, but it may not apply to Canadian conditions. The other thing is collect data from farms. So it's all from crops produced by farmers on farms, using farm equipment, in farm silos, being fed to farmed cows. So I think it's important to have data from those kinds of situations where you know it's real. It's not from some ideal situation in a lab or a research farm. So I think that's important too. So this project looked at alfalfa. I'm interested in other forage legumes, but I'd like to look at different grasses mixed with the legumes to see if we can find a good mixture for different regions of Canada. So I'd like to identify the mixtures that will produce the best yield and the best quality of silage for dairy cows.